Amid the shadowy alleys of Sydney's criminal underbelly, one name evokes dread even among the toughest gangsters: the Ahmed crime family. Renowned for their brutal methods and unyielding dominion, this infamous syndicate has carved a path of devastation across the city. Crimes such as extortion, drug trafficking, and cold-blooded murder define their toxic legacy. But what unfolds when the underworld cannibalizes itself? With the Ahmeds now targeted by their own adversaries, the stakes escalate to spine-chilling levels. As alliances fracture and loyalties falter, Sydney watches in suspense, eager to see who will outlast in this lethal cat-and-mouse pursuit. In the shadowy underbelly of Sydney's gangland, three brothers command a formidable presence: Wally, Brownie, and Rock Ahmed. Wally, the eldest, is a name spoken in hushed tones by those aware of his dark machinations. With a rap sheet that stretches beyond the imagination, his charges range from extortion to manslaughter. Wally's notoriety peaked with his involvement in the high-profile shooting of Danny, a famous club owner in Sydney. This chilling event sent shockwaves through the city's criminal underworld, but we'll delve into that more later. While Wally is the experienced hand, Brownie is the volatile wild card. Earning his nickname for his ruthless nature, not a charming disposition, Brownie's criminal record is a litany of violent offenses, including multiple shootings. His insatiable thirst for power makes him a force to be reckoned with in the seedy backstreets of the underworld. Then there's Rock, the youngest. He seems to evade law enforcement's radar, but don't be fooled by his low profile. Rock has his hands in numerous illicit pies. Though his rap sheet might not be as extensive, his involvement in drug trafficking and other nefarious activities is well known among those who lurk in the shadows. Their criminal operations are as diverse as they are audacious. Extortion is their bread and butter, squeezing every last ounce from those daring to defy them. Drug running is another lucrative enterprise, with the Ahmed brothers managing vast distribution networks across Sydney. And then there are the murders, chilling, calculated, and ruthlessly executed. This brings us back to the murder of Danny. When he discovered that his 18-year-old nephew's jaw had been broken by a doorman outside a nightclub on Oxford Street in June 2002, it ignited a deadly conflict. Less than 48 hours later, Danny, 39, of Granville, lay dead with 4 bullets in his chest outside a car wrecker's yard. On June 11th, the alleged killer was identified as Wally Ahmed, 37, of Condell Park, who was both a nightclub bouncer and the yard's proprietor. He had allegedly assaulted Danny's nephew, Khaled Hamoud, outside the DCM nightclub in the early hours of June 9th after denying him entry. What followed was a deadly altercation between Danny and Wally that ended with Danny being shot 4 to 5 times. The Ahmed brothers had more than 55 open cases against them, and those who dared to cross them often paid the ultimate price. Many lives were snuffed out in a hail of bullets, their bodies left to decay in shallow graves. Despite their penchant for violence, the Ahmed family preferred operating under the radar. They conducted their dark business away from prying eyes and nosy law enforcement agencies. Yet, even the most cautious criminals couldn't completely evade the watchful gaze of the police. The Ahmed brothers were under constant scrutiny, with law enforcement compiling dossier after dossier of their illicit activities. The first significant sting operation unfolded on a balmy summer evening as the sun set and the city buzzed with nightlife. Acting on a tip-off from an informant, police raided a warehouse suspected of being a hub for the Ahmeds' drug trafficking operations. In a daring raid, officers seized large quantities of cocaine, meth, and heroin, along with cash and weapons. Yet somehow, the brothers managed to slip through the cracks of the justice system time and again. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. The Ahmed brothers' reign of terror would soon crumble. For now, they continued to operate in the shadows, their presence casting an ominous cloak over Sydney's criminal underworld. In the heart of Sydney's gangland, tension simmered below the surface, ready to erupt at any moment. And erupt they did on that fateful day when Mansa el-Husseini made a brazen attempt on the Ahmed family's lives. But who is el-Husseini, you might ask? At just 28 years old, he had already carved out a reputation as a significant player in an interstate drug trafficking syndicate stretching from Sydney to Melbourne. With connections to the notorious prisoner Bassem Hamzi, believed to be the mastermind behind the operation, El-Husseini was well versed in the world of crime. He faced 15 charges linked to the syndicate, including supplying a commercial quantity of prohibited drugs and participating in a criminal group, catapulting him into law enforcement's crosshairs. Despite his attempts to stay under the radar, El-Husseini eventually surrendered to authorities, accompanied by his solicitor. His surrender marked a pivotal moment in the ongoing investigation, shedding light on the inner workings of the drug ring. However, for El-Husseini, the future looked bleak. Denied bail and facing numerous charges, his fate was left hanging as he awaited his day in court. Surprisingly, he was released from jail much sooner than anticipated, within just 2 years. Many would expect a fresh start after such an ordeal, but not El-Husseini. Known for his complex character and deep ties to the criminal underground, his ambition remained undeterred. Upon release, he set his sights on the Ahmed brothers after receiving a call to arms from an associate in jail who informed him of an ongoing feud. Armed and clad in bulletproof vests, he stormed a gathering at the Ahmed family home, ready to unleash chaos. But fate had other plans. As chaos erupted, shots rang out, filling the night with the clamor of gunfire and the screams of terrified onlookers. When the smoke cleared, it was El-Husseini who lay critically wounded, his plan in shambles. He staggered to a nearby hospital and eventually succumbed to his injuries, instigating a chain of retaliations that reverberated throughout Sydney's gangland for years to come. Enraged by the audacity of El-Husseini's attack, the Ahmed family swiftly sought vengeance. Retaliation was brutal and unrelenting. Bullets flew, bodies fell, and drive-by shootings became routine as rival factions engaged in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Amidst the bloodshed, one thing was clear: violence was endemic in Sydney's gangland. For the Ahmed family, the El-Husseini incident was merely the beginning of a prolonged and bloody conflict. As the body count rose and streets ran red with blood, it became evident that peace was an elusive dream in Sydney's unforgiving criminal landscape. Then, on September 11, 2005, Brownie was charged with shooting Monza El-Husseini in the hand and shoulder. Police discovered a crashed car in Condole Park after El-Husseini's aunt's home was sprayed with 32 bullets. However, the police failed to charge Brownie officially, a grave mistake, as the Ahmed brothers were far from backing down. It was here that Safwan Chahi and Wally Ahmed collided, sparking a feud with monumental repercussions for both the Ahmed family and Sydney's broader criminal landscape. Safwan Chahi, deeply entrenched in the underworld, found himself at odds with Wally Ahmed, the patriarch of the notorious Ahmed crime family. Their conflict revolved around debts and loyalty, two invaluable currencies in the ruthless realm of organized crime. As tensions escalated, Safwan Chahi agreed to a meeting at Wally's car wrecking yard, hidden within the industrial maze of Condole Park. What followed became a brutal chapter in Sydney's criminal history. In a storm of violence and gunfire, Safwan Chahi met a tragic end at the hands of Wally Ahmed's loyalists. Bullets tore through the night, rending flesh and bone as the feud between the factions reached its zenith. But this deadly conflict came at a steep price for the Ahmed family. In the bustling corridors of Bankstown's central shopping center, amid the everyday chaos of shoppers and vendors, a sinister plot unfolded, sealing the fate of one of Sydney's most infamous crime lords, Wally Ahmed. On what seemed like an ordinary April day in 2016, Wally sat outside a cafe, possibly seeking solace or simply going about his business. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the scent of impending danger. Unbeknownst to him, a masked figure lurked in the shadows, armed with lethal intent. With swift and calculated precision, the gunman closed in, his footsteps masked by the bustling sounds of the crowded mall. In an instant, the serenity of the afternoon shattered with the deafening roar of gunfire. 7 shots rang out, each one striking Wally with deadly accuracy, tearing through his chest and leaving chaos in their wake. Shoppers scattered, their terrified screams echoing off the walls of Bankstown Central. The assassin swiftly retreated, vanishing into the panicked crowd before anyone could identify him. As sirens wailed and the dust settled, Wally Ahmed took his final breath, a victim of the very violence he had often wielded. As police delved into the case, unsettling details emerged. A review of CCTV footage from in and around the shopping center suggested that the murder might have been planned for a day earlier. Video footage showed a luxury vehicle driving into the car park close to Ahmed, who had just finished a gym session. At that time, Wally was spotted near the neighboring Havana Cafe, and uniformed police officers were seen walking past him. Investigators believe the presence of those officers and a marked police car in the car park spooked Wally's would-be attackers. CCTV caught the car speeding away without a shot being fired. Then, 24 hours later, a lone gunman approached Wally as he sat at the same cafe and fired multiple shots, killing the 40-year-old gang leader. To throw the police off their trail, the gunman and his accomplices switched getaway vehicles up to 3 times. They abandoned the initial getaway car, a white Mercedes, which was found torched in Greenacre, before switching to a second vehicle. It is believed that they then planned to switch to a third car, with another driver behind the wheel, and torched the second vehicle. The violence didn't end there. A suspect in Wally's shooting, crime figure Ahmed Assad, was shot dead in the driveway of his George's Hall home 6 months later. Anyone might have thought this would be the end, but the bloodshed continued. 5 months after that, a suspect in Assad's shooting, Hells Angels figure and Ahmad family associate Kamal Blackie Barakat, was murdered in his Mortlake unit. The cycle of violence seemed relentless, perpetuating a long and bloody saga in Sydney's gangland, where peace was but a fleeting illusion. Many believe Ahmed A.J. Jabir orchestrated the killings, yet his gang affiliations remained a mystery. Following the deaths of 2 key suspects in these underworld slayings, police initiated investigations under the banner of Strike Force Osprey. While each murder was scrutinized individually, relevant information was shared across teams, ensuring no stone was left unturned. Homicide Squad Commander Detective Jason Dickinson spearheaded the efforts. However, over time, the trail grew cold. Despite Wally's life slipping away, his legacy continued to cast a long, ominous shadow over Sydney's criminal circles. For his brother Brownie Ahmed, Wally's death was a catastrophe, sparking a desperate bid for survival. With law enforcement closing in and the specter of justice looming large, Brownie made a daring move to flee the country and seek refuge in Lebanon. The escape was fraught with peril and uncertainty, but for Brownie, it was the only way out. He spent months in hiding, a fugitive from justice, haunted by his past and his brother's violent end. Even in the far-flung corners of the globe, Lebanon predominantly, the unyielding grasp of the law eventually caught up with him. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but was released within a year and a half. As Wally and Brownie faced the repercussions of their choices, it was now Rock Ahmed's turn to step up. With his brothers either dead or incapacitated, Rock found himself thrust into a position of unexpected responsibility, navigating the perilous waters of Sydney's criminal underworld on his own. With Wally's $7.7 million debt looming large and the family's criminal empire in turmoil, Rock made a fateful decision to shoulder his brother's burdens and expand their illicit operations into new, perilous territories. Driven by a heavy heart and steely resolve, Rock plunged into the treacherous world of drug importation. This path was fraught with danger, but for Rock, it was a necessary gamble to keep the Ahmed family afloat in the hostile waters of Sydney's criminal underworld. Unbeknownst to Rock, law enforcement agencies had been meticulously gathering evidence against him, silently biding their time for the perfect moment to strike. Under the guise of a covert undercover operation, police officers infiltrated Rock's inner circle, amassing intelligence and building a robust case against him. As Rock's ambitions grew, so did the net of surveillance, tightening with each passing day. When the moment was right, law enforcement pounced, arresting Rock and his accomplices in a coordinated raid that sent shockwaves through the criminal community. The evidence against Rock was damning, a trail of paper and digital breadcrumbs leading straight to his doorstep. From intercepted communications to clandestine meetings, the prosecution presented a compelling case that left little doubt about Rock's guilt. In the cold confines of the courtroom, he faced the full weight of justice. His fate hanging in the balance, the prosecution laid bare his crimes for all to see. When the gavel finally fell, it marked a sobering moment of reckoning. Rock Ahmed was sentenced to 15 years in prison, with a non-parole period of 8 years and 9 months. For Rock, it was the end of an era, a swift and decisive downfall that terminated his reign in Sydney's criminal underworld. For law enforcement, it was a triumph of justice, a victory achieved through patience, perseverance, and unwavering determination. Yet, the Ahmed family saga didn't conclude there. While Rock languished behind the cold, gray walls of the prison, where most would see confinement, Brownie Ahmed saw an opportunity. Upon his release from jail, Brownie Ahmed resurfaced, wielding power and influence that extended far beyond prison walls. With a calculating mind and ruthless determination, he employed intimidation and extortion to maintain his grip on the criminal underworld. Through an extensive network of associates, both inside and outside of prison, Brownie orchestrated a myriad of criminal activities ranging from drug trafficking to extortion schemes, amassing over $10 million. No one was safe from his reach. He manipulated those around him with a deadly mix of connections and influence. It wasn't just his criminal enterprises that instilled fear in his enemies. Brownie's penchant for violence had no bounds. He conducted brutal attacks on rival gangs and even fellow inmates. Through bribery, coercion, and sheer force of will, he operated with impunity, casting a long shadow over Sydney's criminal landscape. Upon his release, it was clear that prison had not changed Brownie one bit. In the quiet suburb of Greenacre, amidst the mundane rhythms of everyday life, a dark and sinister plot was set into motion, a plot that would culminate in the brazen execution of one of Sydney's most notorious criminals, Brownie Ahmed. It was a meticulously planned hit, executed with chilling precision by those seeking revenge for Brownie's long list of sins. As he stepped out of a friend's house on that fateful day, he unknowingly walked into a carefully laid trap, his fate sealed by the hands of his enemies. Like a stealthy predator stalking its prey, the gunman emerged from the shadows, weapon poised. In an instant, the calm of the suburban street shattered with the deafening roar of gunfire. Bullets tore through the air with deadly accuracy, and Brownie's survival hung by a thread. But the assassin showed no mercy, unleashing a relentless barrage that left Brownie lifeless on the pavement, his blood staining the concrete beneath him. As the dust settled on the bloody demise of the Ahmed family, Sydney's criminal underworld teetered on the edge of chaos. Brownie Ahmed's death ignited a powder keg of violence and retribution. In the ensuing weeks and months, a wave of shootings and murders swept through the city, all sparked by the power vacuum left by the Ahmed family's downfall. Rival factions clashed in a desperate bid for dominance, leaving no corner of Sydney untouched by the tide of bloodshed. This is the story of the Ahmed brothers, who once ruled the streets of Sydney with fear, and ultimately became victims of the very violence they propagated. What are your thoughts on this tale? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to check out our channel for more gripping stories from the underworld. See you in the next one.